Roughly an hour ago, 50 Bitcoin from a wallet supposedly untouched since 2009 moved on the blockchain, sent to an unknown wallet address. And this has caused the market to immediately sell off about $200 as market fear has begun to overtake rationality. People are wondering if this is the catalyst for the post-halving sell-off, which really comports with the post-halving hangover theory. But is this really Satoshi? Well, we'll find out in today's episode of Breaking Bitcoin. Welcome back to Breaking Bitcoin. We are live every day at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is your daily source for everything cryptocurrency markets and personal finance. I'm your host, Justin Wise, lead analyst and senior mentor at CrackingCrypotcurrency.com. Hopefully you guys are doing absolutely fantastic today, wherever you happen to be tuning in from, and whether you are screaming in panic or rallying for the skies on this glorious Wednesday afternoon. We are broadcasting live from the above ground, sterilized and quarantined bunker. If you guys want to support the show, make sure to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Hit the bell icon. That makes sure you get notified whenever we go live. Even if sometimes, like this morning, YouTube wants to give us issues and switch around the stream that we're actually live to and create random events and just cause us and my team a whole lot of headache. Of course, if you're watching on DLive or Twitch, make sure to give us a follow and hit the thumbs up button over there on YouTube as well. It does really help push us up in the rankings and notify people to this content. And it's a valuable time to see content like this because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Also, if you're tired of watching price action from the sidelines, trading with your gut, or getting disappointed from the fallacious information that's over there on crypto Twitter, there's never been a better time to join our community of traders and begin building your own objective data-driven strategy. You can take advantage of community and one-on-one mentoring that we offer, our premium indicator suite, our new line of automated trading bots that we are launching, and start building your own verified trading strategy accompanied with our verified trading signals. All this and more at premium.crackingcryptocurrency.com. Click the link in the description for more information. All right, so we've got a whole lot to talk about, obviously. Okay, so let me just start off with being a genuine human person and say that I don't know the full answer, okay? I am an individual that is always interested in the truth. So kind of the best data that we can have right now can come from Chainalysis. That will take some time to go through and get a detailed, more better understanding of this picture. We do have some preliminary evidence that we have right now that we can go through, a lot of it mostly coming from Twitter. I don't know. Obviously, nobody knows. I certainly don't know who Satoshi is. I don't know if you guys are certainly familiar with this recent debacle with Barely Sociable's video and the allegations against Blockstream and Adam Back. And then recently, Tone Vase and Jimmy Song came out with a fairly long live stream to debunk a lot of that. A lot of that's up in the air. I lean on the side that Adam Back and certainly that Blockstream isn't malicious or fallacious, and I certainly do support SegWit. SegWit was a block size increase, right? We have a max potential size of 4 megabytes now, so the block size increase was done, and a lot of this we've covered with the a lot of this we've talked about, of course, with like the BCH and the UASF, of course. If you guys want to watch my interview with Ansel Linder of Bitcoin and Markets, where we talk about the user-activated soft fork, which was dropped by Shaolin Fry, who is completely independent of Blockstream or any persons associated with Bitcoin Unlimited or Bitcoin XT. So anyways, moving on from that. Definitely videos to watch and things that you are ultimately going to have to develop your own opinion about, but we don't know who Satoshi is, right? I highly doubt, I do not believe that it is as simple as what is postulated out there. We don't have good evidence for that. The conclusions that are kind of popular right now stand in the face of evidence. And we also don't know if this transaction is from Satoshi. Most likely not, for several reasons that we'll dive into. The first, right, is you guys are probably familiar with the Satoshi research. We've covered this on the show before as well. I'll try to dig up a link and drop it in the description, or maybe one of the team can try and dig up the link and drop it in the chat. This is, of course, we've covered this on the show before. We've gone through the research where the analysis was done of the early blocks that were mined. And those that were associated with Satoshi were marked. They have extra nonce, so they were fairly easy to identify. And that is where the Satoshi has 1 million Bitcoin kind of comes from. That research is guesstimation at the best. It's not fact. Okay, it's guesstimation at the best, because ultimately what you would need to know, to ultimately know who the individual that mined these coins were is you would have to know them, right? You'd have to know them. They would have to show you that they possess the private keys to the wallet. They could prove this on the blockchain by sending the coins, and you would have to have the IP address, and that doesn't even bring in spoofing, Tor, all of the things that were around in the early days of Bitcoin, and of course are still around today. So, however, going off of that Satoshi research paper, the Coinbase transaction, or the block that was mined, the 50 Bitcoin was a Coinbase reward. So it was the block reward from the early days of Bitcoin, before the first Bitcoin halving dropped it to 25, and then 12.5, and then the recent halving, which dropped it to 6.25. So the third such halving. So the original block reward was 50 Bitcoin. So this is a block reward movement. The blocks that are associated with Satoshi have an extra nonce, so this one does not. Okay, so it does not seem on its face that if we accept the Satoshi research papers as is, that this is a wallet that is directly identified with Satoshi Nakamoto, claiming to be, right? Again, remember that research is guesstimation at the best, but even based off that, this one's not associated with Satoshi. Secondly, I'm fully expecting that we're going to see some broad proclamations later on this day. Maybe I'm very negative for saying this, but I assume that most likely individuals are going to come out of the woodworks and claim that this was them, they sent the transaction, and I highly doubt that there will be cryptographic proof of this. For example, obviously, usual suspects come to mind, such as Craig Wright. Now, interesting to note, and I haven't verified this, but from what I see on Twitter, it does seem that this address, where this transaction originated from, was listed in the Kleiman Wright lawsuit, right? Was listed in the Kleiman Wright lawsuit. Interesting thing to note, and this is coming from Giacomo Zucco. We'll take a look at this in just a little bit. The transaction was sent via native SegWit. So whatever wallet software was utilized to send this transaction, it was sent utilizing native SegWit. So if it was, right, and it was not, because Craig Wright is not Satoshi. But again, that's not to say that it does seem there is good evidence that Craig Wright was involved and mining with Kleiman in the early days of Bitcoin back in 2009, 2010. So if this is a wallet that Craig Wright somehow has access to, he has certainly changed his mind on SegWit as opposed to BSV, because it was sent with native SegWit. So this is a pretty big joke. All right. And thirdly, and a big reason, and this one you're not going to hear a lot of people talk about. So modern wallet software, okay? Modern wallet software does its best to compensate for change and reduce change output. That means that if you understand how Bitcoin works, you have to understand that Bitcoin has UTXOs, right? Unspent transaction outputs. And that is ultimately what really moves around, right? Transactions are somewhat of a misnomer, right? It's not as if you send, if you have, if it's first in, first out, right? So if you send, one BTC to an address, well, it's not like there's just one BTC. That could be one UTXO, or it could be comprised of multiple UTXO splits, right? So every time Bitcoin is sent in different divisible units, that is a UTXO split. And you end up getting these wallets that store and compile these UTXO splits. And we basically just use the raw numbers, units of account, like 1 Bitcoin, 1.5 Bitcoin. But really what's getting sent on the blockchain is UTXOs. And the modern wallet software tries to compensate for the least amount of change, meaning that it is certainly possible that whoever sent this transaction, that this is not a dormant wallet that is, so this must be Satoshi because this is dormant since 2009. It is very possible that this is a Bitcoin user that has been active since 2009. There were many early miners back in the day, right? Probably close to 50. Okay, so it's not just Satoshi, right? Although Bitcoin adoption was very slow in the early days, it was not zero. There were people that booted up their laptops and were interested in doing this. Hell, Big Bang Theory, the popular TV show, ran a joke episode with the idea of the crew of the Big Bang Theory being early Bitcoin miners back in the day when the white paper first dropped and the protocol was released. Mining Bitcoin on their laptop, right? Which would have allowed them to receive block rewards, right? Again, you could have mined with a crappy laptop back in the day and received, exorbitant amounts of Bitcoin relative to today's standards, and of course the monetary value associated with Bitcoin. So that means that it's possible, it's actually quite possible, that this is a user that's been active since 2009, somewhat regular. And it is just now that his wallet is getting to that old UTXO set and sending it. Okay. So it's important to understand that. It's kind of difficult to wrap your head around, especially if you're newer to Bitcoin. But basically, if you consider it like this, right? Every time you deposit Bitcoin into your wallet, you have all these UTXO splits, and typically modern software will go FIFO, right? First, LIFO, last in, first out, last in, first out, last in, first out, last in, first out. And so if you had an old deposit, and of course, in a wallet software, you can import multiple addresses, and it's managed by the same wallet software. Right? So let's say, for example, that you go create a wallet on your laptop with Electrum, and you have the seed phrase for that, or the private key, or the wallet.dat, because back in the early days of Bitcoin, there weren't seed phrases. There, it was just wallet.dats, right? Wallet.dats. And you go create a wallet.dat over here and a wallet.dat over here, and you import all those wallet.dats into the same client software, into the same Bitcoin client software. It's going to pull from those UTXO splits, right? LIFO. Last in, first out, last in, first out, last in, first out. And if you just happen to mine a block, or had a block that was mined as part of your wallet, that was like a one-off wallet, maybe you just mined one block on your laptop, or maybe you mined a bunch of blocks and you moved that Bitcoin around in the early days, but there was 50 Bitcoin left over from a Coinbase reward. And, you went on to use other wallets and other wallets and other wallets and imported this wallet eventually to send it. Well, it's highly likely that it just now got back to this UTXO split. So listen, I don't think you don't have to run out screaming to the hills. We've covered this before. See, I have primed the pump. If you watch this channel regularly, we've covered this stuff so much. In fact, just a few days ago, I talked in depth when we had the team on. We were having a very nice discussion about how it doesn't matter, even if, so first off, it doesn't matter who Satoshi is. Doesn't matter, right? The blockchain is greater than Satoshi, right? It is greater than the sum of its parts, right? The blockchain is a very secure, very robust network that has suffered all kinds of tragedy and calamity and crisis and market panic and forks and fake Toshis and barely sociable videos. And it will continue to survive moving forward because it is a very robust and secure network. I'm not afraid of 51% attacks. That is very unlikely. They are very expensive to perform for very little reward. Okay. And 51% attacks are relatively easy to thwart. So 51% attacks are not a big danger. The electrical system going down, like an EMP pulse wave, that will certainly take Bitcoin offline, but it will also take the modern financial system offline, right? And guess what humans do? When things fall apart, we rebuild. And I guarantee you that if the internet were to go out, so that means Bitcoin were to go out, or if mobile devices were to go up, because Blockstream has satellites in the air now, so that you can actually use a mobile device with a satellite connection to transact on the blockchain. So your debit card might not work, your credit card might not work, but hey, guess what? You could probably send some Bitcoin if you got a satellite and a mobile phone and you're smart. But I believe that Bitcoin would be the first thing to come back online. Individuals would rebuild infrastructure. You would see miners step in to support the network, and it would be utilized as a more efficient means to transact wealth and store value, because it's going to take a long time for the modern banking system to come back online. So I'm not afraid of that. It is what it is, because that's something that affects everybody, and we're just going to have to rally together as a species to get through it the best that we can. I'm not afraid of Satoshis or fake Toshis or anybody rising. It doesn't matter. Who cares, right? Bitcoin development, Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin node operators has become so global and decentralized that Satoshi even said, and I quote, right? Bitcoin was designed to be immune. Maybe I'm loosely quoting. Bitcoin was designed to be immune to charismatic leaders, right? Whether they be named Gavin Andresen, Satoshi Nakamoto, or Barack Obama. All right, direct quote. Loosely quoted. All right, I know I got the order of that wrong from Satoshi Nakamoto. And I'm certainly not afraid of 1 million Bitcoin being dumped onto the market. Guess what will happen? Price will likely go down quite a bit. That will increase circulating supply. We'll have a market correction. Eventually, those coins will be bought back up. And then we never have to worry about that again, because that was a centralized 1 million Bitcoin, theoretically, that has now been decentralized to hodlers who bought up the dip, and price will eventually go back up. So in the long run, nothing to fear, nothing to worry about. There's a lot of FUD, a lot of misinformation, a lot of freaking out, man. And it's completely unnecessary. Is this likely to cause a short-term market panic and dip the price? Yes. Our technicals were already beginning to lean bearish anyways. We've been in a tight range. Bitcoin has been consolidating. It's been putting in some distributive behavior that we've discussed in our technical analysis over the last week. But it's been unclear which direction the market is going to move. Today might give us a decisive signal, all right? Depends on if we close below the initiator of the breaking Bitcoin system or not, in my estimation, which we are certainly close to doing. However, we have had a nice bounce back from support. So let's go into the technicals. Let's take a look at what we've got going on and see if we can glimmer for you, if you're a trader or if you're looking to trade this, what the best possible setup is. And again, full disclosure, when I put out my market analysis this morning, I was leaning more bullish than bearish. However, my actions speak louder than my words, because I did have a long on that was in profit. I moved my stop loss to break even on that long while I opened up a larger short position. Okay, I have a larger short position on the BTC USDT the BTC USDT perpetual contract on ByBit, as well as a short on the inverse perpetual contract. So my short is larger than my long. My long today, just now on this last dump, stopped out at break even, and I am in profit on my short quite a bit. So I do not have beyond mild long exposure, a spot long, mild spot long exposure. I do not have at-risk long exposure open. So again, actions speaking louder than words, as the premium members can attest to. With that being said, let's get into the charts. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Busy day. I'm sure you guys have heard a lot. We'll go through Twitter. We'll look at some data. We'll look at some evidence here. All right, so here we go. Here we are in the live scene. The first thing we should pull up is the daily time frame of BTC. We'll actually take Quadriga ATR off. All right, so here's what we know, right? Here's what we know. Parallax has been choppy over the last week. Parallax is a trending indicator. It's not going to do amazingly well. And of course, I do have its settings sped up. Those who are using the default settings, for example, are going to be experiencing more success because it's going to be more smoothed out. Remember, the smoother your settings, the smoother your input settings, the later your signals are going to come at the benefit of greater, more robust signals, right? The more sensitive, the quicker your signals are going to come at the expense of more false signals. And interestingly enough, Parallax often does not suffer from this. It does not often get this kind of level of chop. So this is quite, again, and many traders can attest to this, is quite a distressing level for many individuals, right? Bitcoin consolidating at resistance, the overall sentiment seeming to be that we're going to reject from here, but then individuals start thinking, if they're smart, they start thinking, well, everybody's bearish. They're probably wrong. We're probably going to break up from here, right? And there does seem to be an overall, let's say, retail bullish sentiment in the air coming off of the highs of the Bitcoin halving, right? We've had a beautiful run up off of the lows from the accumulation area in the $3,500-$4,000 area. All right, so the breaking Bitcoin initiator is currently sitting at 94.25. All right, a daily close below that level will be triggering short positions from me, right? I will be hedged. I will be trading to the downside. And if we do end up completing this, daily close today will be interesting in confirming of this. I'll be waiting till daily close to take a decision on this. This would be putting us down to 89.29, 83.37, and 77.39 as an ultimate target, right? Penultimate target being at 83.30. If we, again, end up closing below 94.25 on the daily time frame, Parallax is giving us that confirmation. WAE will have to watch. Minx is crossed under the noise line. It hasn't actually given us the sell signal yet, utilizing it as a centered oscillator. Paul Bob the Builder, thank you so much for the $2. My brother, he says, I am using baseline Minx and WADA, having amazing results. Thank you so much, my friend. All right, so that's roughly what we're looking at on the daily time frame using the breaking Bitcoin system. We need to see a daily. Now we are above the initiator so far. We have not breached it on a daily closing basis. And so while this is true, it is more likely that price moves up when price is above the breaking Bitcoin initiator or above the baseline. It is more than likely to continue to move up rather than move down. We actually need to see confirmation from the market with price movement that we are actually going to continue to move down. And that may happen again if we close below that 94.25 level. So far, we have not. So let's see what happens as we move into daily close. Looking at what I would call classical analysis. So we're just going to be utilizing trend lines, support and resistance, the Bollinger Bands, and the RSI here, which has become I actually think people quite like this when I look at this, because this is interesting, right? Now, we talked about the big technical movement that people got very excited about, right? And that was closing the weekly above this trend line right here, this downwards trend line from the peak of the rally in 2019. Following that peak of the rally in 2019, we had a second subsequent lower high. We found support. We formed what would be called a broadening descending wedge, right? Which is where the levels where price turns around gets farther and farther down. And you can see this, again, you can see the pattern forming, this broadening wedge. The support and resistance lines remain the same. Diagonal lines are a little bit sketchy, but again, we'll roll with it. Would Yosemite just erupt already? The suspense is killing me. Please don't say that. I live in the Midwest. That would certainly take me out. And from what I understand, they're actually doing some pretty cool stuff, right? To attempt to vent the supermassive volcano. Fingers crossed. All right. So what we've seen today on the daily time frame, and I talked about this, and this is roughly what I put out in my my morning analysis report. Now, we do not have a higher high in price action, so there is no bearish divergence on the RSI. This is just confirmation from the RSI, where we are forming a lower high, and of course on the RSI forming a lower high. All right, so nothing really indicative there. We have broken across that trend line that there is much to do about. And although I personally think this one is sketch, the one I think, of course, eyes are going to be on now is, of course, the big descending trend line, right? Coming from the peak of 2017, marking the top of the 2019 cycle, and now sitting right here, roughly above us. And I showed how if we kind of look back and look at, going all the way back, right? If we look at this resistance order block that's been formed since basically the last high of 2018. This is also where the market was unable to get above. This is where we rejected on order block basis at the peak in 2019. This is also rejection on that second test of that peak in August of 2019 after selling off initially from the highs of June. And we were unable to get back above that in February of 2020 off of the first rally before the March meltdown. Bob the Builder with another $2 saying... I think you want a hashtag there, my brother. Hashtag, I've made so much money using CC indicators in the last 2 days. Thank you so much, my brother. So I certainly do think this is an interesting order block, an interesting level of horizontal resistance. And that level is sitting right around 10,000. And, that ultimate level is sitting around 11,900. So I've talked about that, 11.9 to 12.2, 12.5. That is a very interesting level of resistance. I think breaking above the $12,000 level is certainly the last indication that you need to see that we are really accelerating. I don't think that we're likely to reject from there should we get up there. I would be much more akin to think that this is true breakout territory before that. And as I talked about, continuing to scale up into longs as we break those important levels. Okay, but that puts eyes on this current level of resistance, right? The peak back in February of 2020, and also right where we meet that descending trend line. If we are going to reject from here and kind of respect this kind of much wider trend line, then it is likely the price would move up to 10.3, 10.5 before we settle back down to support, which is currently around 86.27, right? That seems likely. And I think that was I think that makes some good sense, right? Because I talked earlier that if we ultimately see some big rejection, then we don't, I find it highly unlikely that we're going to go back below 6,000 based on the way that price has evolved over the last few years, particularly over the last few months. And more than likely, just a pullback to the overall range point of control, right around the $6,500 area is where this range point of control is at. And the yellow box, fair market value of Bitcoin's price, right? And that would comport very well with the Puel multiplier. So the Puel multiple is basically a good indication of when we are in accumulation zone. And as you can see, Well, let's actually see if we can take this back a little bit. There we go. The first time Puell multiple was in this green zone, which indicates this is a good time for accumulation for long-term longs, was back in 2015, and then again at the lows in 2018. And zooming in a little bit closer, we can see that we were there just off of the March meltdown back in March of 2020, so just a couple of months ago, and we are now there again, right? We are now there again. I dropped the link to read more about this Puell multiple in the market analysis that I put out for premium members this morning. But of course, the link is also here on Glassnodes. It's on Medium by David Puell. So this is definitely an interesting metric. I do think that this strengthens my overall sentiment that over the next few months, accumulation is good. I do think that we are going to be very bullish moving forward over the next few years. I think that we are going to breach 10,000. 12,000. I do think we're going to see a new all-time high, whether in 2020 or 2021, but that it does seem likely that we see a pullback post-halving, right? A little bit of a halving hangover. And some of the people that I respect the most in the realm of analysis do feel the same way. So again, this would also, if we look at daily Bollinger Bands, this would be a movement up to the upper range of the daily Bollinger Bands, wick slightly beyond that to about that 10.3, 10.5 level, and then close back inside the upper range of the Bollinger Bands, and then sell back down to the lower area of the range around 8,600. Breaking that level, most likely we get back to that $6,000 area, but again, we kind of need to wait and see if that happens. Also, remember, if we remember those targets that Quadriga ATR were giving us with the breaking Bitcoin system, those are very similar targets, right? Let's go back and look at those just for the sake of reference. Let's look at Quadriga ATR, pointing to the downside. And where does it say we're going? 89.42, 83.51, 77.59. So again, comports very well with what average true range is telling us anyways about local market volatility. So again, the long-term seems, my overall prognosis is that, the market was already, the chart was telling for a movement to the downside. And this is the narrative that people want, right? They want the news to explain. People are conditioned to want to understand why price movement happens. So this is why people like Nouriel Roubini will come out and say things like, Bitcoin sold off 15% over the weekend with no news. This is a scam. Like, it just goes to show you that these people, the traditional analysis, that the way that people have to conceptualize the market, and unless they actually understand market behavior, they need to believe that it is psychological the way that the market moves. And it is ultimately not. It is ultimately not. The market is just the result of market participants, buyers and sellers, right? And the technicals and the order book is what dictates price movement. News comes out after the fact to justify why price behavior happened. Now, certainly, sometimes news can incentivize or be the impetus, the trigger, the catalyst, if you will, for individuals to make certain decisions. But generally, it's not that way. Generally, it's the other way around. People make a decision, and then news comes out to justify why that movement happened, right? So, for example, if oil drops 30 points, then the news will come out and say, well, oil, so Saudi Arabia did this, so oil dropped 30 points. No. Saudi Arabia did something. Somebody decided to sell oil, whether or not it was based on the news. And then the news comes out to say, this is why this happened. That's not the case. It's not the case. It's a misnomer. Don Camden with the 50 Krone says he just found his paper wallet from 2009 with 40 Bitcoin in the old sock in the attic. Just sharing some. P.S. Not sure why everyone's going crazy. I don't know why. I don't know why everyone's going crazy either. I really don't. We know. We knew it was you, man. We knew it was you. All right. Let's look at the 4-hour time frame of Bitcoin. This latest sell has pushed Minx to the oversold area. As you guys will recall, the last time I took it was the 2-hour, excuse me. Last time I took a long was based off the oversold conditions right here is where I went long. That's actually where my long originated. Could have taken profit around this area. But I chose not to because I was targeting. You can see here, this is the original This is the original setup for my long, and we just whiffed it, right? We didn't quite get there. All right, so let's go back to the 4 hour. We are in that oversold condition, well, almost there, certainly, on Minx, and getting a nice bounce back off of this bottom, basically right back at that break even on my long. But of course, the stop already activated at break even. I am in profit on my shorts. I ended up opening shorts roughly right around where that green line is on the chart. And bottom feeder is actually signaling a 4 hour. So bottom feeder is suggesting that we are going to see a price movement up to about 97.35 with a stop loss at 91.92. Bottom feeder on the 4 hours pretty good. So that would be an absolute filling of that sell down. Not really a bearish sign. Not really a bearish sign. And there is certainly some bullish sentiment coming out. Cybot is quiet on this front. Cybot short just activated on the 2 hour time frame. Rising volatility, rising volume. But bottom feeder is also activating as well. So conflicting signals, certainly some conflicting signals coming in here on the meso timeframes. I think that the best bet certainly is on the daily. If we end up closing below that 94.25, that's your impetus to be looking for that daily swing short. Meanwhile, it seems that trading the range is still the option. We have not broken out of the range. What did we do? We sold back down to the bottom of the range. And as I said earlier, playing the range. Now, I wasn't able to actually secure a long bid here. I wasn't actually able to secure a long bid and act on the 4 hour bottom feeder signal, but I think it would have been a good signal. So I don't think that there's anything conflicting. With either trade setup, but I am more biased to the short side. All right. Over here on the 45-minute time frame, I had indicated this take profit target for my short earlier. We actually did hit this. So we have hit a take profit target on the short, and ISIS spot on the 45-minute time frame is actually going to be signaling along here. All right. So again, I don't think that playing the range here is wrong. I think that we have an opportunity to bid some longs here and see a return back up to that $9,900 level, and then we can either put on shorts at that level with the invalidation being, breaching above the high, breaching above local high. It just depends on how you want to trade it, right? Personally, again, I don't have anything but spot long exposure open at the time currently, and my at-risk leverage shorts. Now, what'll be interesting is I have felt that, and I've kind of shown that I think that Bitcoin can be a leading indicator for traditional markets, right? Not necessarily in a direct price action sense. Generally, if you see ES futures pumping, you know that Bitcoin's going to pump. But the traditional markets are having a good day today, right? So a lot of fear, the positivity, right? The news that justified the bullish movement on Monday, right? As we sit here on Wednesday having another nice, good green day after yesterday's kind of weak sell-off, was that, Moderna came out with this coronavirus vaccine, which I know that everybody, not everybody, but certainly a segment of the population that's watching this is going to be, moving on from there. I don't want to get bogged down in that. I don't want to get bogged down in that conversation. But then yesterday news came out that, well, actually the results weren't really that good. Sorry guys, so traditional markets or news about the coronavirus seems to almost be on the same cycle as like Bitcoin news. Like Monday news is put out like, hey guys, Adam back at Satoshi Nakamoto. Tuesday, sorry, no, it's not Satoshi. We got that wrong. We still don't know who it is. And then Wednesday, it's like, no, wait. It's Adam back again. Nobody predicts the Spanish Inquisition. So overall, market sentiment seems to be driving us to the upside. VIX still has not normalized. Individuals are saying that the stock market has shown a history of recrashing once VIX normalizes following the initial market crash. VIX hasn't normalized. It's still twice as high as pre-COVID levels. And because I have to mention it, let's go take a look at CME futures. Reversal baseline bounce opportunity, right? I know people are going to be screaming for it, right? Reversal baseline bounce opportunity. All right, so while we're here, let's take a look at open positions. You guys want to talk about a nail biter trade? It's not a nail biter. It's Tyson right here. I am short on Tyson stock, and we've had about a week of like, oh, we're in profit. Oh, we're at a loss. Oh, we're in profit. It's cool. I've got my reasons. I hold the short open. I'm long on 10. 10 has been interesting, right? It's been pretty volatile as well. Just been ranging around this consolidation, having a nice movement today so far for 10. Long on the CAD yen still, getting good movement out of the CAD yen. Still long on silver. Silver is doing its heyday. I've updated my trailing stop loss. And, my trailing stop loss is, well, it updates naturally, but I do push through the updates just in case individuals aren't setting a trailing stop loss and they want to be setting, continually every day updating a hard stop loss. That's totally fine. Just use the value that Quadriga tells you to do on the daily candle close. Long on PDBC. Again, we went long here on PDBC and having a fantastic movement still out of PDBC, really taking advantage. Chose PDBC for a good reason due to the volatility. Took a loss on SDAO the other day. This has more than made up for it because PDBC, the position size was quite large because the distance to the stop was relatively small on this PDBC trade because this is, these are basically the low sats of the stock market. But anyways, fantastic movement on PDBC so far. Still long on USO, went long on USO here with the group, and we're having fantastic movement still out of that. Long on copper, after having a weird day, copper gapped up nicely, hitting our first take profit on our CPER ETF trade. SPLG hasn't really given us the movement that we want out of the long, but we are long on SPLG. Short on the pound Kiwi, getting a fantastic big down candle out of the pound Kiwi today. And short on the dollar CAD. Short on the dollar CAD. Still not quite hitting take profit one yet on the pound CAD. Pound CAD. The dollar CAD, right? We all nerd out together. But again, overall, so trades are doing pretty well for me, which is good because, first, particularly in Forex, right? First 4 months of 2020, I had a very high hit rate. Over the last, let's say, almost 4 weeks now. It's just 3 weeks, actually. My hit rate's been closer to 30 to 40% in Forex, and so good to get some movement coming back in Forex. But again, that's just part of running an objective system, right? Your objective system is going to average out, given enough time. You're going to have your winning periods. You're going to have your losing periods. The main key fact, if you want to be a trader, that being a trader has nothing to do with being right? That is the least important thing. We've talked about the 3 aspects of being a trader, and that is technical analysis, which is certainly important, but more important than that, because you need to know when to get in and when to get out, but more important than that, because you're not going to be wrong, maybe most of the time, is risk management and emotional discipline. So trade psychology and risk management. That's the most important thing. It's the most important thing. Man. All right, let's take a look at the Forex markets today. Talked about the Aussie yen yesterday. I didn't end up putting on any new positions in Forex because I was quite happy with my overall risk profile. But again, talked about the Aussie yen yesterday. Was certainly a valid long and getting positive movement moving forward today. The Aussie Kiwi actually might be gearing up for a short. Parallax is not quite there for me, so I'm going to keep my eye on that one, but put it on my watch list. Aussie Canadian still needs to break above 0.91973. The Australian dollar is actually putting in signs of a continuation. Actually, an initial long today after kind of a fake out sell there. Canadian Swissies in a no trade zone as we pull back down to the baseline. Swissy yen is still moving up nicely, but not in a good area for me to trade. Euro Aussie is signaling exits for longs. Euro Canadians in a no trade zone. More bullish than bearish certainly, but no impetus trigger right now. Euro Swissy selling off after that big FU candle the other day. Euro Kiwi is indicating that long should be exiting right now at this point in time. Euro Pound's putting in a nice candle to the upside again. No exit signal, so one should still be long on the Euro Pound if they ended up catching that trending signal to the upside. Same with the Euro Yen and the Euro Dollar, actually. Pound Kiwi, as I said, I'm short on. Pound Canadian, not in a position on this. Really need to see nothing to do here, I think, for the Pound Canadian, but certainly more bearish than bullish. Pound Swissy, I don't feel comfortable taking any action here. The Pound Yen, need to see it below 133.66 for a continuation. Pound Dollar need to close above 122 and then back down below 122 to take action. Pound Aussie selling off, so following the Pound Kiwi to the downside. The Kiwi Dollar actually is looking good today. This one will be on my watch list for a long. The Kiwi Canadian should be on my watch list. We need to get above 85.406, and we are like right there. So, but Parallax isn't there, and I don't think it likely will be before the end of the day. And even if it was, that would probably be candle size violation per the baseline indicator. Kiwi Swissy as well. I doubt that Parallax is going to be there, but if we can get above 59.322, that's going to be a potential long. The Kiwi Yen is actually going to be indicating some movement to the upside here. So maybe, but we're outside of the entry zone. So watch the Kiwi Yen for a pullback. I'm going to remove that one from my watch list because I know it's going to be above the entry zone. Yeah. Yeah, as you guys can see, we are above the entry zone right here. But if we can get a pullback below 65.769, then we could look to take the Kiwi Yen to the upside. As I said, I'm already short on the dollar Canadian. The dollar Swissy, it's actually a potential continuation short, but I would like to see a pullback. So I will keep my eyes on that one moving forward into Thursday and Friday. Dollar Yen is more bullish than bearish, but I don't see any action to be taken here. And the Aussie Kiwi, I'd like to see us above 63.932. The dollar Yuan, looking for that short. Again, this one I'll be watching closely today. I've been watching this one for the last few days, really watching the dollar Yuan for a short. But we need to get below 710.410 for the dollar for the dollar Yuan. The Dow hasn't actually signaled for the continuation long. We need to get above 245.64. The Qs are performing well. Again, Qs gave that initial long signal over here. Actually, not until today, actually, because Water Explosion, we just now have rising explosion level. So actually, the Qs might be on hand for a for an initial long today with a 3-bar rule, but that's 1-2. So only at 2/3 risk, right? Only at 2/3 risk for the Qs. And the SPY did give you the long signal over here on the SPY. That's why I took the SPLG. Did not actually take the SPY. I traded the SPLG. And again, VIX normalizing, the VIX normalizing, but not anywhere near pre-Cove levels, right? So we are not out of the woods yet on the VIX, guys. Ethereum, as I said, needs to get above 221.46. We have not gotten there yet. EOS, same thing, needs to get above 279.1, but getting an exit signal on the daily today for longs. So if we're able to get below 258 today on EOS, would be a continuation short. Same with XRP. XRP needs to see, we need to see XRP above 21.90, almost 22 cents. And a close below 19.92 would be a continuation short. And again, we've already talked about Bitcoin, close below 94.25, 94.26. And we'd be looking for that short to the downside. When used Toyota, don't get a Toyota, man. Get a Honda. When Gremlin. When 1992 Honda Civic. I actually have one of those. It's a good work car. Reliable. Never die. All right. With that being said, guys. No, I don't think my stats aren't updating. Thank you guys so much for the likes. We are above 50 likes on YouTube. You guys are fantastic. I highly appreciate the support, guys. Shout out to everybody watching on DLive as well. MixGo, thank you so much for the follow over there on DLive today. Let's get this DLive love going on. Put some lemons in the basket now. Excuse me. Casino for Life and King Crypt 13, Maverick Twitch. Thank you guys so much for the follows, and Tron 2020 DE. Shout out to all you guys watching on Twitch as well. If you guys want to support the show, make sure, if you're watching on YouTube, you can help us out by subscribing. And we are over 8,000 subscribers, so I do want to thank everybody so much for the support. It seemed not long ago that we crossed 1,000 subscribers, and here we are very shortly afterwards crossing 8,000. So you guys have been absolutely fantastic. I really do appreciate the support. All right. Enough of that. Back to work. We've got money to make. Iowa moonshine made in Justin's basement. Yeah, no, I don't distill alcohol, but certainly down for it, right? You know, I am a big advocate of self-sustainability. So, you know, we produce a lot. We produce a lot of our own food here. We actually collect rainwater, not as our main drinking source, but just to be more sustainable as water for the plants, to reduce our water consumption. You know, we compost. You know, I'm one of those guys. Yeah. Anything you can do. I mean, and here's the thing, man, like anything you can do to, the reason why though, it used to be because I was really environmentally conscious, and now I'm less so. But now I'm just more financially minimalist, right? If you just take the time to cook your own food and grow some of your own food, people don't understand how much that reduces your overhead. Like the average consumer, the average human wastes so much money on just purchases that are just robotic for them, right? They get their little debit card and they're just used to grabbing something to eat on their way to work and grabbing something at lunch, and they're tired when they come home from work, so they get some fast food, and they don't understand what that's doing to their body and their health, but also to their bank account, right? All of that money adds up. Like, okay, here's the thing. Let me break some numbers down for you guys, all right? All right. You guys are traders. You guys are here to make money. You guys want to be speculators, right? And I bet, you know, when you first came here, you thought, you know, I want to take big bets and see those big wins. And I could see this psychologically, right? Like when you put on a trade and you're considering taking profit, and it's like $100 or like $45 or $70, something like that. You're like, I could get more out of that because you want to see those big paydays. You want to see those big wins. But here's the reality. It depends on what your goal is, right? If you are trading to have a side income, how does $10,000 American sound a month, right? Is that worth your time? Is that worth 30 minutes a day? I think that it is, right? I think that it is. So $30 a day is a little under $11,000 a year. If you can build a strategy that returns $30 a day on average, you can replace a third of the average American income. All right. If you can make $100 a day, you have a middle-class income in the United States. Middle-class income in the United States. And if you have that income coming in that is mostly automated, passive income, by having built a strategy that does not take you active time to trade, it takes you very little time to trade each day to actually execute on that, okay? That allows you to not require a job. And now what do you have? You have time, okay? So you can take excess income and invest in real estate. You can take excess income and invest in the markets and build a long-term portfolio. You can do what you want to do. You can learn the skills that you want to learn. You know, large amounts of money are good, and you can get there if that's your goal. But I would advocate that you value freedom and your time. This is your one life, your precious time. Are you going to spend it in a factory working for somebody else and being so tired from that job that you don't enjoy your life? You don't get to spend time with your family. You're eating fast food on your way home. Or are you willing to be a minimalist, accept less up front, but have your time to do what you want and enjoy your life? You can't put a price on that. You can't put a price on that. Where the heck did that yay come from? That come from DLive or something? Did anybody else hear that, or was that just me? Am I going crazy? Big winners over on DLive. Midwest Attempts, the Pie Guy, Rhino TD, Ricky T, and Solar MKD. It was Alex. Epistemic Crisis. Thank you so much for the 8-month subscription with Twitch Prime, my friend. What a man. He says, yay. That's where it came from. Highly appreciated, my friend. Thank you so much for the ongoing support. 8 months resub. You guys kill it. No, it was Twitch. I don't know if you guys could hear it because I don't know if I have my... I don't know how I don't think I'm routing system audio in, so I don't know if it pushed over. It most likely didn't, but... Okay. With that being said, we've got some news to break down, so let's get to today's cryptocurrency segment. All right, this article comes from Forbes, and it's titled Blockchain for the 99%, and it explores what adoption will look like in the years ahead for our nascent industry. Now, our world, of course, is full of technology that we all use on a regular basis, and most individuals who are utilizing this technology don't really have a comprehensive understanding of how it works. They don't understand TCP/IP or how data actually comes into their mobile device or what the heck a SIM card is, and that's even internal combustion engines to AC, electricity, to the internet. Everybody relies on these technologies every single day, but most people don't understand fundamentally how they work. Most individuals are not engineers. All right. So the question here is, we have to ask ourselves, should our approach to blockchain be any different from this, right? Because right now, in the blockchain industry, we're roughly where we were, one could say, with where we were with regards to the internet in the early 1990s, right? Before Google, before Amazon, before WeWork. At the time, most people didn't even know that the World Wide Web existed, and less understood how it worked. And there wasn't really much to do or much to interact with on the early internet, except for early dungeon puzzle games and talkboards. But since then, the internet's gone on to transform our entire lives and business and finance and everything you can imagine, everywhere across the world globally. Even though most people don't understand how the internet works, where it comes from, the activities of their daily lives still rely on the internet to provide them their information, their services. Look at pictures of cats. You guys know what I'm talking about. And for most normies, the concept of blockchain is extreme, even more mysterious than the internet, more mysterious than SIM cards, right? It's not widely understood. It's not appreciated. And the fact is, a majority of the internet users don't interact with blockchain, right? Some, fewer still have even heard of cryptocurrencies or utilize cryptocurrencies regularly. And most don't understand how or why, or for what purpose we're using blockchain and what it could be used for in the future, right? Understanding the technical applications of blockchain and cryptocurrencies are very complicated, and you got to be pretty advanced in computer literacy to understand and dabble in the space so that you don't, even if you want to do something more complex than, trade on Coinbase or Binance, right? If you want to start utilizing your own wallet, you have to do some research so that you don't make a costly mistake, so that you can be a power user maybe someday, right? But according to this optimistic Forbes article, a recent move by a few companies who are more forward-thinking, we can argue, have begun to push for blockchain technology to be more implemented into these applications that are more consumer-focused, that are more business-focused, right? Obviously looking for this kind of killer app, even though Bitcoin solves that as a killer app for money, but a blockchain-based service that individuals just can't live without, like Gmail or Twitter or YouPorn. And this will be the first real step toward, in their opinion, mainstream adoption of blockchain technology among normies, right? And like many of us would expect, a financial service application is going to be the first candidate for a consumer-grade blockchain application, right? They want to put, they want to utilize blockchain technology to kind of bootstrap the existing financial system onto a better network, right? Because accessing and providing credit is pretty frustrating. Anybody who's worked with that, right? For consumers, it's murky and time consuming. You've got Credit Karma. You don't understand your credit report. Why can't I just get a loan? I just use my credit card to buy what I want. Why do I have all this debt? Why do I not have money? And honestly, for lenders, it's costly and can be inefficient. I mean, this is why the lending process has become centralized, right? And you don't see as many small lenders as you used to because it's become extremely costly. Also, general repayment rates have gone down. But because blockchain creates an immutable record for every transaction, they could use that to record, share, and exchange data about loans in new ways, right? And because humans aren't involved in that process, they're not actually writing down, not doing any bookkeeping, the chances of data entry and bookkeeping errors get reduced, if not eliminated, right? These errors in accounting in general get pretty costly when time and money is required and needs to be compensated for a human being in order to track down and fix them. So it does make a lot of sense, regardless of what our opinion on this is. The more things that we can use the more things that we can move to blockchain technology that is sensitive data. Obviously, we've explored on this channel, and something that I'm quite positive of is medical records in the blockchain, and allowing access to that in some sort of securitized fashion, which means that you can have your medical records on the blockchain and they can be accessed at your discretion to who needs to access them. Because right now, the whole medical records field is an absolute nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. And this means that human beings aren't really getting the best possible care that they can because we don't have all of your information in one concise, convenient location, right? It's all, right now, all medical data is in one convenient location in Africa. Now, blockchain technology holds the promise that if it's properly applied, it would make normal, common financial matters of savings, loans, credit more efficient, more secure, and less costly, which is probably good for all of us. Now, one example, Figure Technologies. They're taking advantage of blockchain technology to simplify and transform their financial service application, this little website for home ownership. Guys, there's never been a better time to go get a house, rent it out, make passive income. Come on. Like dirt cheap to get a mortgage right now. Figure Technologies' current crop of consumer offerings is focused on home equity, lines of credit, borrowing, mortgage refinancing. I've never utilized them. but just, kind of picking low-hanging fruit here. And they're embracing blockchain in their business operations. And they've got actually their ad campaign's kind of neat. They're using a mascot named Blockchain to try and explain the technology to consumers, explaining how blockchain works and why it makes sense for financial transactions. Let's actually give a listen, because this is funny.
You work here?
Do I?
This is funny. Let's get this pulled up. Let me see here just a second. I think that's probably too big. What if I do theater mode? Yeah, that's better. Okay.
Psst. Hey guys.
Hey, Blockchain, you work here?
Do I look like I work here? This place is old. Waiting long.
Couple hours?
You know, with Figure, you can apply for your home equity line in 5 minutes, get a lower rate than a personal loan, and funding in 5 days.
How so fast?
Figure's fast, Jen.
So we don't need to be here.
Not unless you like paperwork, waiting lines, and sticky hard candy. Oh, wait, is that butterscotch? Grab me like 30 of those. Save time and money at Figure.com.
All right, so nothing overall like wowzers there. Pretty lame traditional commercial that you're going to see anywhere else. However, just the fact that we're seeing the words blockchain starting to be thrown around, right? Of course, there's a couple ways to look at this. One way to look at this is this is very similar to like the Long Island iced tea blockchain thing, right? Where people are just utilizing blockchain. This isn't the case. Like, they actually have blockchain applications, right? They actually have a blockchain application for their financial services technology. And, just that we're starting to see this really is an interesting, it's a cool milestone, right? For those of us who have been involved in, blockchain development, this does not necessarily go hand in hand with decentralization, but it does certainly move us toward a more efficient society, more efficient processes. And again, our role needs to be that we push the most important thing, which is sound hard money in the form of Bitcoin, which utilizes blockchain technology and decentralization hand in hand, right? Blockchain on its own is just a good technology to make sure that data is secure and it's easier for us to work with, right? People who are like, well, it doesn't scale and it's slow, it's whatever. We'll figure that out. That's not the important. It's a better system of transmitting data. But blockchain is not synonymous with decentralization. So something very, very, very important to consider. Blockchain typically will probably make most of our services that rely on data transmission better. It will not make us in itself a freer, better society. Something like Bitcoin will, that is equally blockchain and decentralized, right? So very important moving forward. And that brings up kind of another use of blockchain where they're going to, for the gamers here, another use of blockchain that can avoid fraud that's going to be having a pretty big breakthrough is MMOs, right? Massively multiplayer online games. They're very popular. Players all around, people all around the world play these things, come together in communities where they participate in a shared ecosystem. They work to earn credits or currency within the game's world parameters. Some individuals actually make a living off of this nowadays because esports has become such a big thing. You have sponsors. It's a huge thing nowadays. And also, I would argue that this is extremely popular and can be utilized. I'm just throwing this out there. This is like the modern age running ads during football games, right? You have the mass population that watch these things. The mass population is very into gaming now. And what terminology and what words and what framing we use to present the universe through our advertising on these platforms matters, right? This is how you shape the conversation. This is how you change the Overton window, all right? But, rather than, creating a lot of blockchain gaming projects have focused on building a gaming platform, right? Where they want players to pay to play. A company called Horizon Games is using the Ethereum blockchain to create a platform that that belongs as much to the players as it does to its creators, right? And that's leveraging elements that we have usually associated with cryptocurrencies like wallets and coins to create game features that resonate with what most consumers are typically comfortable with and puts control back in their hands. This is the Arcadium wallet. It functions as a cryptocurrency wallet. Players can store and manage game items, rewards, currencies, blah, blah, blah. Skyweaver, it's a free-to-play trading card game. Not as cool as Magic the Gathering, but hey, it's out there. And, that brings, again, and this is kind of tied in with non-fungible tokens, right? Physical collectible card games into the digital era, actual tokenized assets on the blockchain, which we can move forward with. Right now, it's just being mostly used for collectibles and art and services and things like that, right? But the next example in this article that we were talking about cites the gig economy, how it's exploded in the last decade. I'm on the wrong page here. The gig economy over the last decade, how it's exploded, which is good, right? This is individuals becoming more self-independent, right? This is individuals becoming more independent and realizing that the old days of like working for a company for 40 years and retiring and they'll give you a gold watch and you're good to go. I mean, that's just not reasonable. That's not reliable anymore. Do what you love and utilize your own hustle to grow your social network and build. This is kind of the better, I think, this is a better way toward freedom, right? And, this gives people the flexibility to choose when and where to work, right? But that's come at a price, right? Gig workers don't get to work if there's no demand for their services, and they're not really lacking, and they don't really have generally, unfortunately, good safety nets, right? There are ways to do this with safety nets, right? For example, but they're going to rely on you. You don't have that, pension plan, or you don't have that, unemployment benefit or anything like that, right? You got to rely on your own hustle and make sure that you have services and skills that are in demand, right? But this ultimately does mean that gig workers tend to have more financial anxiety than other groups, right? So getting more into blockchain and companies that work with it, you've got things like Moves, right? New startup. So it's got a 85% chance of failure, but they're trying to provide capital directly to workers who operate independently for places like Uber, Uber Eats, Lyft, DoorDash, and others, right? And again, not Long Island iced tea blockchain, right? They actually have a blockchain-powered database that looks to extend short-term microloans. This sounds like something out of the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey. This gives microloans to eligible clients and is launching a cash advance product. And again, a lot of complaints about cash advance, but certainly better than going to the payday loan store, right? But this smooths out short-term bumps on the financial road for gig workers, but they also allow them to build a track record of responsible credit use for those who use the platform responsibly. That's a pretty good thing because credit is something that people struggle with, right? And that blockchain information informs future lending decisions, and that provides access to additional financial products for those who use these products responsibly, like credit, debt consolidation, business financing, insurance, and investment products, which are really, listen, as a small business owner, are really, really important, dude. If you can't get access to these things, you're kind of screwed, right? So people, wonder. I have a very right-wing approach to these things. Like people, often argue, like the system, certainly the monetary system is certainly corrupt. But when it comes down to like getting people to give you things, you have to make responsible decisions, and it behooves you to start early and make those right decisions. But if you just start making the right decisions and you have a long enough timeline, you can get there. I've worked with a lot of individuals, right? And I'm not an expert in this, but I've just given people my best advice and told them what I've done, right? As an independent person, to build my credit, get access to the things that I need, get the right deals. And a lot of it comes down to just having confidence and doing your research, right? But that's, again, the thread of this little story right here is blockchain tech. See, Freud was right. Blockchain technology trickling down to consumer grade mainstream applications, right? And we are going to be seeing it powering and automating a lot of services and things that the public uses on an everyday basis. And not everyone's going to understand how it works. Most people aren't going to understand how it works, but that's okay, right? I think that if we're advocating that everybody needs to understand crypto and everybody needs to understand blockchain, they don't. They just need to use it. They just need to use it, right? That's why it's okay to tell people, just buy Bitcoin. Don't worry about how it uses, because most people aren't. Most people use money every single day and have no idea how it works. And that's okay. I mean, it's not really okay. That's why we have big problems. But again, it makes our job a little bit more difficult. But startups like, the companies that we talked about are examples of companies that are trying to, I don't know if for the positive or ill of society, but certainly embracing this blockchain technology and allowing individuals to interact in the marketplace. And as a result, we're going to see blockchains one day transforming the way we live and work more than they already have, right? And just like Google, Amazon, other tech titans have shaped the way that we interact, shop online, talk to each other, store data, send, pay our bills, bitch about people, and create conspiracy theories on the internet, these same public blockchains may end up doing the same in this coming era. And again, if we can push that in the realm of decentralization, even better. And remember, private companies, the free market is a form of decentralization rather than government centralization, right? Rather than nationalization of state resources by the state, right? So anything that's free market, I will highly support over anything like a CBDC or any kind of command and control centralized government application, right? Remember that. Now, let me know what you think in the comment section down below after the show has come out, or if you're watching this on a Breaking Bitcoin Bits. Do you guys think that blockchain technology that we talked about, like in these particular market examples, are going to be transformative, bring all sorts of new innovations to our marketplaces, to people? Or is this negative? Is this not the way that we should go, right? We should see everything on Decred, Dash, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Or do you think, it doesn't really matter and we have a really long way to go and a lot of challenges to overcome before blockchain is able to compete with the services that are already currently offered by centralized entities? Or do you think that those services are better, right? Again, what we're trying to do is decentralize, getting more free markets in there, getting more innovation, getting more competition in there, again, is a form of free market decentralization, right? It decentralizes the marketplace, which is better. And if it's on blockchain, even better because that's more secure. So let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Our next story. This might scare some of you. But speaking of real-world use cases for blockchain technology, this next one is covered by Decrypt, and it's about the latest reports coming out of the American think tank known as the Value Technology Foundation. Okay? Now, this report was released earlier today, and it aims to educate the United States Department of Defense about how they could benefit from utilizing blockchain technologies, right? Particularly in matters of cybersecurity, right? And what might be considered most surprising about this report is not who it's intended for, but rather the co-authors, right? Most of them high profile, who actually took part in drafting this report. Maybe this won't come as a surprise to you because we're going to get the conspiracy theorists coming out of the woodworks, right? Some of the companies that contributed to the report are IBM, AWS, Amazon Web Services, Accenture, Deloitte, CGI Federal, and blockchain firms Consensus, Symbichain, and Colvin Run Networks. Now, this report has a pretty simple title, right? And this is just potential uses of blockchain by the U.S. Department of Defense. And it goes over several ways that the United States military could utilize distributed ledger technology and in their cybersecurity efforts, right? It highlights the potential benefits of blockchain technology and current uses, or where it's being used elsewhere, and then proposes specific use cases that would be of interest to the DoD, right? For example, the report highlights the benefits of utilizing things like multi-factor authentication, things that we utilize every single day on cryptocurrency exchanges, 2FAs, smart contracts, how they could aid with secure communications for the U.S. Space Force, and how blockchain authenticated fighter jet parts can be 3D printed on U.S. Navy carriers to cut down on costs and repair times. The founder at Value Tech is Jason Brett. He's a former U.S. regulator at the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and he's also a former policy ambassador to the blockchain firm Consensus, right? And he was quoted in this article with Decrypt to discuss the impact of having so many large companies that were involved in signing off on the publication of the report, again, to the DoD, all right? Saying, let me find the actual quote, right? Saying, quote, it was incredible to see companies that are normally competitors work seamlessly with the notion of how to better improve the armed forces and keeping them on the lines of cutting-edge technological development. Woo, woo, rah, rah. Now, this came with some congressional support as well, like Darren Soda. He's a Democrat from Florida. He wrote the foreword to the report, and he highlighted the relevance of blockchain to national security, considering, particularly highlighting that China and Russia have made huge strides in the realm of blockchain technology, and that the United States should not be sleeping on this. All right, the United States should not be sleeping on this. And again, regardless of how you feel about this, I have been very, very critical of the DCEP and its negative impact on society. We covered the, kind of the Hong Kong dissension the other day, where pro-Democrats were basically kicked out of the policy chambers by pro-Beijing thugs. Right. So again, there are certainly worse alternatives out there. Right. And that, the United States needs to really, really, really be educated on the potential benefits of blockchain adoption, as well as the risks if the Defense Department does not consider pretty much rapidly embracing this technology because it's going to lose ground, right? You guys don't want to stay stodgy old badgers forever. You guys need to get off the ground with this, right? And it goes on to argue that the United States, which is right now the global leader in technological innovation, will be challenged and it'll lose that seat if it doesn't actually engage with the private sector and academia to promote the research and development of blockchain technology. And, again, one would argue that assuming all things are independent, right, that this is a conversational thread that can get us a more secure sound money if we push hard enough for it, right? A lot of people are going to push against that, but the reality is there's only one instantiated. Listen, you have the proponents of centralized money, right? But the ultimate goal is that you have society over here and those who would argue what is best for society, okay? And a better sound hard money is better for society rather than the centralized nightmare that we currently have, okay? We need to change minds. It is not as vast and us against them as people think, right? Where it's just like the Bitcoin community and the anarcho-capitalists versus everybody else. It's not like that, right? The majority of everybody else has, at their core, want what is best for society and currently believe, it's like a consensus argument, right? Currently believe that the centralized form of money, that the funny money that the Fed prints is the better solution to that because that's what they've been taught. That's what they've been led to believe, right? So opening that conversation up so that we can get more wider spread support in significant areas is how you engage with changing things in the public arena. You sway public opinion, right? You sway public opinion that something like Bitcoin is a better alternative to the form of money that we currently have, right? The idea that it's just going to be us against the world, that's not going to get us a lot of support. It's not going to get long-term widespread support for something like Bitcoin for worldwide adoption or for a nation state to step forward and say, you know what, we're going to adopt Bitcoin. And I would advocate that that's certainly what we need, right? I would advocate that that's certainly what we need. Now, they're going to be doing a brief to the House and Senate Armed Services Committee on the benefits of blockchain. And that's going to coincide basically with the distribution of this report among policymakers, right? So it'll kind of be interesting to see over the next few days, like what the initial reaction to this is from United States policymakers. Again, swaying hearts and minds is important. Not every single individual directly benefits from the corrupt monetary system that we currently have. The majority of individuals would gladly adopt a better solution if they were educated as to why that is a better solution. So we need to do a better job of representing the decentralization community in the form of sound hard money, right? We need, and this is something that Austrian economists have been rallying for years. So it's really beautiful to see this in the Bitcoin community. So many different areas and sectors and groups of individuals that at their core, just like most people, have making the world a better place at their kind of core impetus, coming together and building a platform, the Bitcoin platform, to better affect that, which brings together all these things, right? And nothing helps fuel consumer adoption of new technologies like trickling down from military-based research and development projects. So if we were to see the United States military-industrial complex embrace blockchain technology, that would make major inroads for the adoption and development of blockchain in the coming years, right? Because things branch out and a lot of money sloshes, a lot of money is inserted into the military-industrial complex, and their R&D siphons out, right? Leaks out, trickles down to the consumer economy. So pretty cool to see there. And again, the more blockchain technology that is utilized, the more decentralized things can become. Again, blockchain and technology do not... blockchain and decentralization are not hand in hand, but they can be if we can help direct the public opinion forcefully enough, or not forcefully enough, convincingly enough. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. With that being said, let's go back over and see if All right, cool. So Jimmy Song just published this article on Medium. Why Satoshi probably didn't move some coins. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let me get the guys in here for this last portion. Hold on a sec, guys. All right, you guys are on.
Hey, is it working this time?
It is. It is working this time.
Perfect.
Yo, what up, fam?
Not sure what to do with my hands.
Not sure what to do with my hand. All right, I'm gonna read this.
See the Al Bundy.
I'm gonna read this thing from Jimmy Song. He says on block 631,058. A transaction was mined, which spent an output from February of 2009, a month after the Bitcoin network went live. This caused a bit of a price swing, not to mention a lot of speculation about whether this is Satoshi moving these coins or not. In this article, I'm going to lay out the case for why it probably wasn't Satoshi and the bit of digital forensics we can use to figure this out. All right. On May 20th, the transaction with this ID was broadcast onto the network and included in the current block. The transaction's input was from block 3654, specifically the Coinbase transaction, which was mined on or around February 9, 2009. As the Genesis block was created after January 3rd, 2009, this is just 37 days after the Bitcoin network's first block was mined. Speculation is that the output belongs to Satoshi. Given that a private key is required to unlock the output, the fact that this output was spent suggests that the spender has access to the private key. If this is Satoshi, this would suggest that there may be a lot more Bitcoins to be jumped. The price of Bitcoin dropped about 5% as of this writing, perhaps based on that speculation.
Yeah, curious timing, right? We just came off the back of the Adam back is Satoshi story, and
Seems suspect to me.
Well, I definitely think, yeah. I'm reminded earlier today you mentioned on the show that so much of financial news that is there's a price movement, and then people trying to connect that to like, oh, that price movement happened because of this news over here. Price has been looking really weak for days. The group is already in a short, and unless everybody is suggesting that somehow we all saw the future, that these 40 Bitcoins from December 2000 or February 2009 was going to be moved, then I really don't think that this is the cause of the downward movement. So I just want to talk about that from like a fundamental perspective on price movement.
I would agree. 40 Bitcoin is not enough to do what just happened, but I mean, it could incite fear, whatever. I mean, everyone's going to blame it. But as to say what we were talking about earlier in the show, I do believe that, I mean, this could be just some dude who randomly found his old computer. He's like, dude, guess what? Like,
that would be really incredible for that guy, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, he just found, what, $4.9 million?
I think it's 400,000, actually.
400,000, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because, just so one thing that he points out, and I talked about this earlier, right? Because Bitcoin was so new during this time, every single individual that was on the network was mining, right?
Yeah, there's no reason to use the network if you weren't mining. Who are you going to send money to? Like 5 other people?
It does come at a very suspect time, though. But that could all be coincidence. We could probably find, if this would have happened 5 months ago, probably something to correlate it to on, man, this seems suspect. So we'll see if things continue to move. That would be interesting.
I don't know, guys. We live in like interesting times, right? So like at this point, anything is
No
goddamn
way.
near possible, right?
Ancient Chinese curse. Make you live in interesting times.
This is this could be Satoshi's revenge. The man's crawling out of the grave right now to undo the Frankenstein that he set in motion a decade ago. It's like the Messiah's return, and he's not happy with what's going on. He's going to go with the flood option.
They say you can't take it with you, but digital assets can be transferred to heaven. Now bring it with you. Buy Bitcoin.
Thank you so much, Hadio. He says, thanks for putting yourself out here, man. I appreciate it, my brother. So this is a lot, right? This is pretty technical, but I'm just going to sum it up as much as I can. Jimmy Song saying that if we go back to the early code from Bitcoin V0.1, there is this variable called an extra nonce, right? And once you start up the Bitcoin software, that value is set to 0. And the longer you mine, the longer you let your system run, that number gets larger and larger and larger, right? So the longer you turn your laptop on and let it mine and just leave it alone, that extra nonce, which is an integer, it's a number, will get larger and larger and larger each subsequent block that you mine. And if you reset or turn it off, it gets reset back to 0. So this is where Sergio Lerner's Satoshi evidence comes in. So you guys can see from this graph, right? Let me get zoomed in on this a little bit more. Okay, so on the, you guys can't see this, but on the y-axis here, on the y-axis is the extra nonce, right? And it gets larger and larger and larger. And then on the x-axis here is the blocks, the block numbers. So you can see these long blue strands. Green strands are spent UTXOs, so Coinbases that were mined and then spent or sent, and blue strands represent blocks that were mined, UTXO splits were the Coinbase transaction, the block reward, that were unspent, that remained in the same wallet. And you can see these long blue strands that seem to follow this pattern of regularity, right? The extra nonce gets quite large and then resets about once a week, and then gets quite large and resets every once a week. And that's what's associated with Satoshi, right? And now, while that, again, this is where I say this is speculation. This is like some guesswork forensics. This Satoshi evidence, this Satoshi research. It's something. It's better than nothing, but this is guessing at best, right? But the transaction today came from one of the smaller blue strands and not one of these long blue strands that's associated with Satoshi. It says this, and Jimmy Song in his own words says, these are what are suspected to be Satoshi's coins as the extra nonce value increases when a block is mined. These are also pretty long running processes that seem to get restarted every week or so. To be fair, we don't know if these are specifically Satoshi's coins, except something like block 9, where we have evidence that Satoshi sent half any 10 Bitcoin. But there's decent forensic evidence giving how the blue strands line up. When one ends, another one begins soon after, that these Coinbase outputs have a good argument of being Satoshi's. And if we look at the current block that was mined, this is just confirming that this is not one of the clear blue strands, which is the best evidence we have of Satoshi's coins, right? He concludes here that it is possible, of course, that Satoshi was running Bitcoin on multiple computers, and that this is from another computer, that the blue strands for block 3653 and 3655, but given the clear blue pattern of all the coins that haven't been spent, it seems likely that this isn't the same person that owns the million or so Bitcoins, which we would presume to be Satoshi. So pretty good summary of that. I will link this Medium article in the description. And again, ultimately, what I think is important there is to say exactly what I said when I first came onto the program today, which is, hey man, nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Still remarkable timing nonetheless. Like I said, the barely sociable video has really made, I think, a splash in the community in the last week or so. And I mean, I think it's even, I think it even got Adam back and out of hiding, so to speak, because he, I don't know if you guys check out the What Bitcoin Did podcast, but Adam Back and Samson Mao just made an appearance on there yesterday. I highly recommend everybody check that out. They do describe what Blockstream is up to with the Liquid sidechain. I was listening to it yesterday. I couldn't help but think that, like, man, did the barely sociable thing kind of light a fire under them and have them come out to kind of make a big public podcast address as to what exactly Blockstream's up to try to clear up some of the FUD? I think safe to say that barely sociable might have been onto something here. Definitely, roiled things a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly spurred conversation from people that, it's a good and bad thing, right? Conversation is good, public debate is good, but it's also generated a lot of speculation from people that don't really know anything more than what was concluded in that video, right? So one could argue that the conversation is not being geared in the right direction, but it's good to see that overall, I think that it's good to see people getting involved in the community. I just want people to think critically and do their research and actually get, make an objective analysis of the information themselves.
For sure. And that's going to be difficult to do because I think most people who are probably going to tune in and watch that video, Unmasking Satoshi, they are, like most people in the crypto space, probably newcomers, and by that I mean you showed up maybe post 2015, post 2016. So because the video deals with a subject matter that's like the Bitcoin's early days and the community in the early days, we're so far disconnected from it that it's. We're taking really everything on faith and on second hand, right? So, to really take an objective look at what's being presented, you'd almost have to be a bit of an OG in the space and kind of realize that, like, this isn't necessarily what they're making it out to be. Think the community and the climate was different than the way they're painting it, and that the way these events unfolded isn't how I remember them. But again, if you weren't really there at the time, this might seem. It might take you aback. Let's leave it at that. So, do recommend everyone checks that out.
Here's thanks Alex for providing this. This is from Coinmetrics. So here is the timestamp for the broadcast and when it was confirmed. And here's the whale alert tweet, and you can just see the market response immediately.
Well, I stand corrected. Maybe they've got some sentiment trading bots that are just like, oh, well, let's go with it.
Here's from Giacomo Zucco saying that this is just funny, dude. I love Giacomo. He says, the actual news is not that Craig Stephen Wright finally received his keys via bonded courier and is now dumping his millions of Bitcoin, finally killing Bitcoin Core for good. The actual news is that he changed his mind about SegWit since he's using native SegWit output. This is a joke.
Slash sarcasm.
Yeah, slash sarcasm, yeah.
No way, that's serious. I hope it's serious.
Let's see here. I'm trying to find that tweet from I'm trying to find that tweet that this address was in the this is Whale Panda's thread. Here we go. This is from GMAX. Nothing connects these coins to Satoshi. Also, the Bitcoin software generally tries to minimize change. This will result in big outputs being left alone in an active wallet that has smaller outputs. So it's possible that the author of this transaction has been frequently active all along, and their wallet just got around to spending this particular coin, or UTXO split.
I'm reading what you wrote there, Jack, and I just don't think there's any reason for there to be anyone to reveal themselves. I still don't think Satoshi ever needs to be known or will ever want to be known.
Yeah, that might be the case. I mean, I was kind of tongue-in-cheek with that comment.
If it's one person, I definitely don't think they want to be known, but I'm of the idea that it's a group of people.
Well, they've had their reasons for why they decided to hide their identity and disappear in the way that they did back in the day. So,
I don't think Satoshi could destroy BTC anyways. Yes,
Yeah, I don't think so either.
If he
But
dumped on the market, yes, we'd have a big ass fucking dip. Sorry for cousin. We'd have a big dip, but it would get back up. I mean, it's not like since he has the most coins, he can just destroy the market. Like, that's silly.
no, for sure. But you know, he would probably bring some influence with him in the community, right? And you know, one of the allures of Bitcoin is, you know, it's not just like trying to be decentralized, but it very much kind of accomplishes that, at least in the way, in its pitch and its narrative. And you know, part of that is thanks due in part to the mysterious nature of Satoshi and like the, you know, the opaque past of this guy and where he is now, right? So like all that plays into it. So it's kind of like, you know, you unmask the guy, or if he reveals himself, maybe take some of the mystery out of it, take some of the fun out of it, you know, take some of the allure out of Bitcoin. And then, you know, there's also the other issue that, like, you know, when you have like this face associated or some one identity, whether or not he's got centralized control of the network or not, you know, it's still that one guy that can be potentially harassed by the government or brought in front of the Senate to testify for something. You know, you don't know.
And I agree with
but maybe that would be a concern. So it's really, I agree with you. It's really convenient that he doesn't need to reveal himself. Probably good that he doesn't. So let's just keep him out of it. But I'm sure, you know, the biggest concern is probably his million coins, right?
Something that blockchain just stated. Why would someone take the chance to be sued from every side of the spectrum? And that's why I believe Satoshi is the way that he is. I believe it's a conglomeration of people that basically did it this way so they didn't have to go through lawyers to LLC, because who the hell is going to be able to attack them now if they don't know who it is? Because if Satoshi was to be figured out as one person, you know there would be people coming after him for something.
$5 wrench attack, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess that's why you keep your private key to bonded couriers, right?
Well, overall for me anyways, it's pretty good to see the Bitcoin OGs, right? You know, Gregory Maxwell, Whale Panda, Adam Back, Joseph Young, Michael Goldstein. I saw them all there. Pretty calm, cool, and collected, and they're usually right. And the BSV shitcoiners coming out of the woodwork saying that it's the end of the friggin' world. So I'm pretty good. I feel pretty good about the whole situation.
Hey, Justin.
Yeah.
I do not want to be a buzzkill, but we have a community mentorship to run in 8 minutes.
All right, guys, time to go. Thanks for coming on, guys. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Any important Q&A stuff? I know we didn't get to the Q&A today, but is there anything
No one was
really need to...
No one was really asking that many questions. I don't
know if there's any super chats or something we got to address. I wouldn't want to leave anybody in the audience hanging too bad, but you know, we do have that community mentoring coming up, so.
Yeah, you don't gotta go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah, I don't see any. I didn't see any super chat questions. Just some talk about espresso machines. But all right, thanks for coming on, guys. I'll see you guys in a bit.
There was only one question.
All right. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for joining me for another exciting episode of Breaking Bitcoin Market Update, brought to you by the Cracking Cryptocurrency Premium Trading Group. For more information and to take advantage of all our offerings, make sure to check out premium.crackingcryptocurrency.com. If you're tired of trading with your gut and getting it wrong, click the link in the description for more information. If you guys want to support the channel, make sure to subscribe over on YouTube or Twitch or DLive if you're over there. Hit the bell icon over on YouTube. It's the only way to get notified, because YouTube doesn't really send out subscription alerts anymore. And make sure to support the show by hitting the like button. Like goal. Can we get to 100? I know we can do it, guys. Find the courage, the strength, the resolve to say we are all Satoshi and hit that thumbs up button. Any other words, news, advice? We have a community mentoring session coming up for premium members here in just about 8 minutes. We're going to break down more in-depth things that we covered here and go into strategy testing and resolve. Any other questions, comments, concerns, sarcastic remarks, and or death threats can be left in the comments section down below. We'll do our best to respond as soon as possible. We try to keep a very active community. Make sure to join us in the Discord if you have not already. Discord.crackingcryptocurrency.com. Certainly the place to be. We've got an amazing bullish season coming up over the next few years, guys. So do not Do not sleep. Do not sleep on it. Prepare yourselves, gird your loins, and prepare for market volatility. Either way. And again, remember, guys, just another day in crypto, right? So relax. Don't believe the FUD. Do your research. Take some time. And before you allow any kind of fear or greed to direct your decision, take a deep breath and go look at what your system is telling you to do. All right? We will be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time with another episode of Breaking Bitcoin. Look forward to the Breaking Bitcoin bits that will be dropping this evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will see you guys all tomorrow. It is a beautiful day out there. It's a little like cloudy. It's been super cloudy over the last 3 days, but it's a great time to get some gardening done. Great time to do stuff. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Trade safely.